Dr. Prithviraj HS, working as Assistant Professor of Botany at Sri Madheshwara Government First Aid College, Kollegal, Chamarajanagar district. Today I have come with a topic on biodiversity, and this topic has been prescribed for the students of University of Mysore as a non-core subject under environmental studies. So in this class I'll be dealing with the definition of biodiversity, levels of biodiversity, importance of biodiversity, loss of biodiversity, conservation of biodiversity, IUCN role in conservation, and at the end I'll be concentrating on in situ and ex situ conservation. Well, the term biodiversity is formed by two words, biological and diversity. It is the variety and variability that exist on this earth. It includes all life forms like plants, animals, fungi and microorganisms. And all these are found in the terrestrial and the aquatic systems on this earth. So there are many levels of biodiversity: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. Genetic diversity is nothing but the differences that exist among the individuals of the same species or within a species. So in that way, each individual member of a plant or an animal is different, and this difference is due to the genetic constitution. If you take Homo sapiens, we find that each human being is different because of the difference in their genetic constitution. So these differences can be seen at the level of the eye color, or at the level of the character of the air, or at the height of the human beings. And the individual animal or plant has the ability to survive in a particular habitat, and this also is determined by the genes that they carry. And this is a picture to show the differences among the human beings because of the genetic makeup. So species diversity refers to the number of species of plants and animals. It is the species richness of a community or region. A tropical rainforest has the highest species diversity compared to temperate woodland, and desert communities have very less species diversity. And this is again a picture showing the species diversity. And ecosystem diversity is the different types of ecosystem that is there in the earth. It can be a forest, it can be a grassland ecosystem, desert ecosystem, mountains, and some aquatic ecosystems like rivers, lakes and the sea. So all put together they form the diverse ecosystems. And the organisms from many different species, they live together in a region, or they are connected by the flow of energy and nutrients. So here there are ecosystems like mangrove, forest, ocean ecosystem and the desert ecosystem. So why we need to know about biodiversity? What is the importance of biodiversity? Biodiversity has ethical and moral values. It has aesthetic value, it has utilitarian value, and it has ecological value. So ethical and moral value means every human being has the right to live on this earth. In the same way, the other animals and plants also have the right to live. and we are not concerned with the destruction or removal of those plants or animals. So in that way we can give respect to all the organisms that are present on this earth. Aesthetic value means it is the pleasure that one gets by hearing, by touching, or by seeing the diversity. It can be bird watching or it can be nature training. Utilitarian value means human beings not only get the feelings or emotions by observing them, but he also gets some material out of biodiversity. It can be agricultural material, or he takes in these food sources from the biodiversity, he takes medicines out of biodiversity. Most of the industries are dependent on the biodiversity, and it also has scientific and educational values. And ecological values means it maintains the carbon dioxide and oxygen balance, and it regulates the biogeochemical cycle. Now, what is happening to biodiversity? So nowadays there is a loss to biodiversity, and this loss of biodiversity can be attributed to several reasons. So some of the main reasons of loss of biodiversity can be listed as habitat fragmentation, habitat degradation, population pressure, overexploitation, introduction of exotic species, shifting in the cultivation, human generated pollution, contaminants, and global climate change. So these things are bringing a drastic change in the biodiversity, and with this we are having a loss in the biodiversity. Now the next thing comes, how we can conserve them. So why we need to conserve them? So conservation refers to the management, use, and protection of this diversity or resources, saving life on earth in all its forms and keeping the ecosystem functioning and healthy. Preservation, maintenance, sustaining these resources, all will be the aspects of conservation. Now, what are the differences between conservation, preservation, and sustainability? Well, conservation is the sustainable use of resources and encompasses protection as well as exploitation, whereas preservation is an aspect of conservation, meaning to keep something without altering or changing it. Sustainable development is another intricate aspect of biodiversity conservation. So why we need to conserve biodiversity? Because it is the life support system of our planet. It gives a lot of medicines in the form of penicillin, aspirin, Taxol, and quinine. In that way, it saves millions of lives on this earth. It filters pollutants from water. It reduces global warming, and it has a cycling of material in the form of bacteria and fungi. They help in the cycling of the material. That way, we need to conserve them, and we need to protect the biodiversity. So what is the role of IUCN in conservation? IUCN means it's an international union for conservation of nature and natural resources. It spreads the message of conservation. It builds the capacity to conserve. It monitors the plant and the animal diversity. When it also conserves the plant genetic resources, and it expands botanical gardens. So the last aspect of biodiversity being the in situ and ex situ conservation. So in situ and ex situ are the Latin words for on-site and off-site conservation. Both are complementary approaches for biodiversity conservation, and each plays a distinct and important role in conservation. So, well, in situ conservation is nothing but conserving them in their natural habitat. So, it enables researchers to determine the distribution of a species throughout the world, to assess traditional communities' contribution to conservation, and to inform local conservation initiatives. In situ conservation helps to guarantee the survival of a species in its natural habitat. On the other hand, ex situ conservation is the maintenance of organisms away from their natural habitat, such as in gardens or in gene banks. It can be a zoo or it can be a botanical garden. So it is nothing but the conservation outside its natural habitat in the form of parks or in the form of gardens. So the rare plants and animals can also be protected by this ex situ conservation. So the main objective of ex situ conservation is to ensure the survival of the threatened species. Ex situ conservation preserves the genetic material and it maintains the safety of the threatening plant and animal species. So these are some of the references that I have made for the topic. I hope this topic will help you in writing the examination. So thank you, one and all.